Instagram too, which is going to be awesome. Okay.
It's a lunchtime live too. Everyone
I
should
know,
be
right?
hopefully taking a break and enjoying their meals and not trying to eat and work at the same time.
Of course they're not.
It makes a difference, y'all. It makes a difference. Take your lunch break.
It does. It does. It does. Um, with that being said, welcome to Core Conversations. It's your main man with the game playing Corey Giovanni, and we are on episode 2 of Self Care with Sarah Wilder, and that's Sarah without a H.
Very important when you do
Sarah,
it.
talk to the people. Talk to the people. Tell us how you doing. How you doing? How was your Valentine's weekend?
It was good. I had a friend visit, a non-romantic, not because I'm against Valentine's Day, but I wanted to connect with my friendships that I haven't, I don't get a chance to see them often. So she came up from Atlanta to see me, and we spent some time and just rested, honestly. Those are like the best friendships where you like friends come visit and you actually get rest.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I totally get that. Rest is so important.
Hmm.
Speaking of rest, you know what I mean? I think I got a lot of it this past weekend. I made sure I did not work because of the fact that, as a mother, I mean, as a father and a husband, this weekend, I'm busy. I was busy. I made sure the kids got Valentine's gifts, the wife got Valentine's gifts. You know what I'm saying? Even got moms a Valentine gift. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that I took care of my people. And speaking of taking care of people, let's dive right in. Now we're working with this acronym title called self care. And last week, if you guys didn't tune in, go back to the channel, right size shorts at YouTube. Make sure you tune in. You'll be able to catch those clips, and then the full video will be coming soon. But let's go ahead and dive in. Talk about it. Let's give a recap, Sarah. Give a quick recap.
Yeah, so the recap for the self part is a lot of like the internal processing. As a therapist, I help people in traditional talk therapy and with a lot of different evidence based practices get through the internal processing of their own lived experience, whether it be something of like understanding trauma, dealing with complex trauma. But over my 10 years of working with people, I've condensed this down into some internal non-negotiable skills that we need to learn as humans. So self is seeking or self safety. Then there is ego expression, love as a language of vulnerable expression, and F as addressing faith, fun, and facts, or faith, facts, and fun. I can't remember which order I put it in, but those
Right.
topics tend to be kind of not like every person, regardless of age, race, gender. I've had those conversations with them, and those are conversations I encourage everyone to have with themselves when they're doing the work outside of therapy.
Yeah, and that's important um, because therapy is not always supposed to be for forever. And I believe that there's a time that the tools that you learn in there starts allowing you to be able to use them while you're out. Like I'm an advocate of therapy. I've been in therapy for quite some time. I took a break and now I'm actually going to be getting back into therapy next within the next couple weeks, just
Good.
so I can be able to keep my mind right, keep my focus right, make sure that I'm being the best person, best husband, best father that I can be, because it is very important. Therapy is not just for you; it's also for the people that you are around.
Absolutely. And yeah, I appreciate you saying that too, because I made a post the other day on my social media where it's like, just a reminder, therapists, we like to be let go in some regard. I said, I cannot wait until the day my clients fire me. But just let me know. Don't just like ghost me, but we're humans, and sometimes either we grow in a different direction that's just not aligned, or a person grows past a therapist growth. That's one hard thing I think to understand in this world of that we live in, is that everyone grows in their own speed, in their own direction, and learning how to deal with our own emotions about that whether it be because unfortunately we have to deal with grieving the loss of someone, or honestly, I have grieved people who are still living on this earth.
Mm.
And I've argued, not opinion, but I think that's probably a little bit harder is like knowing they're still there and dealing with like no closure or dealing with a breakup, and also learning to build trust with yourself in the process that you'll be okay.
Right. And that's what a lot of people don't discuss or talk about is grieving people that they're here, but they're not present in your
Yeah.
life, right? Um I found myself at one point in time grieving friendships that I used to have. And I didn't know how to deal with it until I was in therapy,
Yeah.
and some good words that my therapist told me. She was like, you have to let them go for you, not because of the fact that you want to keep a friendship that's not there. You're holding on to the memories, you're holding on to the past of what was, and that individual is no longer that person, and you're no longer that person that was in that memory because you have grown, you know. And
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Absolutely. And I think right now too, because I wanted to take a little bit of a break of because the work is really going to be done in the 8 week group that we're going to have going on towards the end of February. And next week we'll talk a little bit more about the care model. But grief has been, when you ask me how I'm doing, honest, like I'm okay, right? Like because I have my lifestyle that I've built to help me maintain in tough times. Um, but right now, our society is going through a lot of loss. And I guess the best way I can explain it is I feel like people are getting a crash course in what grief really has to be. And it's really, I mean, we've always been going through this as humanity, but I feel like right now, since COVID, like
Hmm.
we've been dealing with the concept of loss and trying to understand how to take care of ourselves through it. And just today, with the announcement of Reverend Jesse Jackson passing away, and
Yeah.
then also at this time of, societal controversy with the presidency and the Epstein files and all of this information, you've got people feeling just so much right now, and
Right.
there's really no one way to handle it. I still will die on my own personal therapeutic hill of, breath work and being able to understand how to move energy through your body, because that's all emotion is: the despair, the sadness, the fear, the disappointment, the concern, the whatever it is that you're feeling or what you're triggered by these days, is learning how to visualize that energy and move it through your body, whether it be through physical exertion. But that is grief. I've worked with people who, like, when I work with addictions and people with like complex PTSD and, years of trauma and abuse, it doesn't it doesn't stop. Like the world can't just stop for you to get better. You have to find your way to move through the world while you're still feeling hurt in a way. And I think
Right.
there's a lot of confusion. And like I said, there's no one way I can tell you to do this, but I think there are some non-negotiables. And one of them, for the lack of, I can read a laundry list of things, but is really trying to find ways to
Right.
move your body, move yourself forward in your day, even if that means that you're sitting there and you're journaling or you're coloring. You don't really want to think about all of the grief right now, but you want to find a way to move through your day and not just dissociate, not just feel defeated and like there's nothing that has is being done, because there are plenty of people, just because we're seeing a generation of civil rights activists, of actresses and actors who set examples and to be role models. A lot of them are passing away, or that's why I mentioned the Epstein files of like we're having to grieve who we thought they were.
Right.
There's a lot of names in that I'm keeping myself fairly protected from some of it because I have to be a space for people to regulate and co-regulate with them.
Right.
But I have seen some of these names and I'm like, oh wow, I
Right.
didn't expect that. That's still grief. There
Yeah.
is a version of you that maybe once, and I'm not going to say any names because I honestly don't know what is actually accurate information. But if they are real, like those names being involved in a something that I consider wrong and unjust, and we need to address as a society, is a part of me that's grieving that a little girl who like, oh wow, I saw them on this show. They inspired me to do this thing with my life.
Right.
But maybe I idolize them a little bit too much. That's me having to grieve
Yeah.
that part of myself.
You know what's funny? There's stages of grief, right? There's the anger, there's the sadness, there's the what is the betrayal, I believe.
So despair,
Despair.
bargaining,
Uh-huh.
you said anger, I'm gonna
Sadness.
have to go back. So I've actually evolved past those, but yes, recognizing that you're gonna feel different things.
Right.
You could feel angry, you could feel despair, and then eventually you kind of like bargain. It's like, oh well, if I feel, if you do this one, it's usually a concept of a higher power helping you through something. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh well, I'll be this way if this
Right.
thing comes back. Those are all normal feelings that come from loss.
Now let me ask you a question, because not all those stages hit at for everybody at the same time, but
Hmm.
acceptance is one of them, right?
Yes.
How do one person deal with the acceptance? Because let me just tie this into what's going on in the world today. A lot of people are angry, which because they expected something to happen, and I believe that anger is tied to grief of what they used to know this country used to be, right? And then, or what this country should be, right? So they're angry at what's happening, and but then they're sad as well. So I believe like grief is taking a toll in this nation with a lot of things moving forward. Like you mentioned the Epstein files, right? That's one because some people look like you just said they're heroes. What? I can't believe this. And then or you know what I'm saying? People who they're role models, right? And then if it's fake, then now you're grieving because you let your guard down and believe something that's not, right? And then let's look at what's happening to our to the illegal ICE raids and things that are going on in this country, right? You know what I'm saying? Those things that are happening, people are grieving the fact that there was once upon a time there was safety. They didn't have
Absolutely.
to worry about going out their house. So they're mad at this, and now they're sad at this, and they're scared because now a trip to the grocery store can be somebody not coming back home. You know, somebody who normally goes out and do their normal livelihood. And hell, even if you are a citizen, you still have to concern yourself because of the fact that if you look at what happened in Minnesota, you have to look at like if you see unjust and you know you're a person who can't turn a blind eye to injustice, you get involved, you may end up losing your life, right? The fact that you have to think about that could grieve you. And I think that is what this country is dealing with and not looking at it as grief. They're upset.
Yeah.
Upset? Yes. Rightfully so? Yes. But we have to look at what it really is. And some of it could be distraction, but a lot of it is grief. Grief of what we knew what this country was and no longer is.
Absolutely. And that's why I have started, like, I make acronyms to try to bring meaning back to, like, grief has a definition. I'm sure
Yeah.
we could probably Google it real quick and define what it means. But every person's individual experience has a different meaning of a word. So I made them based off of my perspective of working with clinical mental health cases for a long time is general resistance and emotional flow. That's where acronyms are just they're my jam. Self-care and grief. And when we can start to understand that we are not just, I don't mean the universe is just energy. We as a human, our experience is mostly emotional. we deny, and we've been conditioned by some external society learning that our experience, we don't need to have emotions in things. And that right there is the biggest, honestly, it's a barrier for me as a therapist sometimes to create space with, and I build rapport with people over time in a therapeutic relationship, but to help them understand their grief is happening whether you pay attention to it or not. So if you're not making space and time for your own lived experience in your day, a little bit each day, and I don't mean it just has to be journaling, but it could be, it sometimes it is therapeutic to just do physical health stuff, right? That is time for yourself, and that's training your mind and your body to process that energy that is happening, and that because we're all exposed to it. That is grief. There's also grief of good things. I have had to, a lot of, it's an odd time to bring this up, but not, grief is not always just about losing things in death or just loss in general. It's actually gaining success. There are parts of myself that I had to grieve, and people, because this came with, if I wanted to consider myself successful, whether it be with my health or whether it be in my profession, that means I had to reevaluate some relationships along the way as to whether or not these people are making space to accept me in my
Right.
growth. And that also means that I had to work on losing money too. I was very, it's sometimes counterintuitive of, and it's not just a matter of spending money to make money, is I had to lose my scarcity reactions to making money, because when I made money, I just wanted to spend it. So I had to lose and grieve some of my old spending habits
Mm.
because I was conditioned to make myself feel better and deal with stress by spending money, right? So
That's
it doesn't
good.
happen just in one direction, it happens all around us.
Right. And you know what, you made a good point, because when we talk about grief, we don't think about the um we just think one thing, like death. You know what I'm saying? And we don't think lifestyle, right? Think about somebody who was like at the top of their game, and now they're not, because of the
Mm-hmm.
fact that, they're, let's take a basketball player, they're no longer in the NBA, right? They had such high success, probably won a championship, maybe won the MVP, but you don't hear them, you don't see them. They're not mentioned anymore. They're not even mentioned in the greats of the top fives. They don't have a character in a video game. All of this, right? They grieve an error of when they were legit the man or the
Yeah.
woman, right? And that's deep, because I'm not gonna say I'm a victim of that. I've experienced that though,
Mm-hmm.
where I used to be at the top of my game when I was at work, working in sales, winner circle. Everybody knew Corey was hitting his quota, this and that and that and this, and then there was a season where I couldn't catch a break, and I was like, oh my god, what's going on with me? I went through the mad, I went through the sad, I went through all those stages about myself, and that is what actually drove me to starting to get into counseling, because I had to realize I wasn't I was measuring myself based off of performance and not my personality, or not who I personally was.
Absolutely. You bring a great, concept of seasons in our life. And it doesn't just mean the season that we associate externally, is that there's a poem called Season, a Reason, Season, or a Lifetime that specifically more references like relationships in our life. But which is why I talk about in recovery, you have a relationship with self, which is what we're talking about right now, is what's happening internally that can be influenced externally. So many people don't live in line. This is gonna sound a little woo woo, but many people don't live in line with the season. They don't eat with the season, they don't sleep with the season, and they don't actually plan financially for certain seasons, which I had to learn the hard way, given that I have a naturally entrepreneurial personality.
Right, right. I know what you
And
meant.
yeah, I was like, it's not coming out right. But I could not, I in my mind am high performing every season. First of all, that goes against what I teach. Literally,
Yeah.
I'm not practicing what I preach there. And sometimes I have to grieve my own expectation of a project taking off or there
Mm,
being a slow build. Or I have had seasons, this might sound funny, but I'm grieving my healthy practices when I was truly a single free person, but now I'm a dog mom. I can't just go to the gym any single time I want to, and I'm having to find ways to move and be accept. You asked this question earlier, how do we accept the things that we can't control? Yes, I could have controlled not taking in my dog, but I also wouldn't have been able to stay in line with what I wanted for my family. It was previously my brother's dog. I wanted to be able to build a nicer and better relationship with my family versus just being like, oh, I'm gonna go get my own dog, whatever the case may be. And that was just the way it happened. And I'm having to grieve a season of my life where I was able to focus specifically on myself. I was able to feel like at the prime of my life, I had to grieve a business partnership. I had to grieve my old business because I shut things down from a previous business partnership and rebranded myself because I had no choice. Someone took all
right.
my money. So it's like, there are so many things that we don't really always consider as grief, but a lot of it is because we actually don't really know how to and understand our own emotional fluctuations that are
Hmm.
influenced just by the external environments that we're going through.
That's deep. That's deep. Cause comfort can probably cause that. Wouldn't you say? Like when you get too comfortable in a situation and then change abruptly happens, you grieve that comfort that you were in. And I know as entrepreneurs, right? We always get to the phrase where we like don't get too comfortable because at any given moment something may happen where it would take us out of our comfort zone. And I always have the mindset of be ready to pivot, but stay in the moment that you're in. Serve the season that you're in, right?
Yeah.
I know that when you start a business, you're sowing seeds, so you got to do the groundwork. You got to make sure the seeds get in there. You got to go find your clients, and then you got to when you get the clients, you got to keep them. However, there is a place where you can get to where those clients leave or you serve their purpose. My therapist was telling me this the other day. This season of you helping that client serve that client's purpose, yet you did not. Like me, I'm thinking like, oh man, that's a client that's gone, and I'm thinking like, okay, so that's revenue that's leaving out. But I never looked at the part that this person who I helped achieve their goal in my coaching services. But you know, that's where the grief took over, and not looking at the celebratory fact that I helped somebody get to their goal.
Absolutely. I'm gonna be a little bit greedy and throw another acronym in here that may help with now that you can, if you're listening to this, grief is more of an emotional experience, the ebbs and the flows, but sometimes sitting with that discomfort is, you shouldn't stay there. So I have another acronym. I call it the peace model, and it's technically my business values, but it's also a process model, just a different way of finding your own momentary peace. If you can't change, because acceptance in my industry, it really comes down to, it's actually in the peace model. So it stands for perspective, education, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. So all is individual values for maintaining peace. But if you put it into a working model, when you're in a kind of a down and out place, give yourself a dose of perspective. What, so if I'm, really saddened by this generational drop off and just a lot of loss right now, my perspective point is, you know what, there's a next generation of leaders preparing themselves to come and take the place of these leaders that we all learned from. Next one is education. Okay, well, if I'm one of those next gen leaders, which I do consider myself that, what do I need to do in this moment to establish that? Like, do I need to ask a question? Do I need to go study? Like, do I need to go read on more civil rights activists, how to be back in the community. I have personally, I just, for me, I register this. I've been meeting my local representatives. I've been networking instead of just business networking. I'm networking in my local community with policymakers, with people who, me as a subject matter expert in mental health and recovery, I can go help advise them how to address that, right? So that I align with my value of education. Acceptance. What can I control and what is not in my control? This is a tricky one because to our brains, especially if they're moving fast. So first thing is try to slow it down. What is truly in your control to make that happen? We do not control someone else and you don't control outcomes. So what can I control right here right now to make myself feel that I can secure that perspective and I can gather that information about what I need to feel peaceful. The fourth one, compassion. This one, honestly, I always direct back to self. What is something that I need to experience more compassionately about my position here? So that is my self talk about, you know what? Loss is real right now. I'm losing parts of myself that I wasn't prepared to lose. I wasn't prepared to see certain names on that list and be that disappointed this morning. I just wasn't. And that's
Right.
okay. So I don't need to go all in today. I just
Hmm.
need to be prepared. And what the last E is empowerment. What is one action that I can do or take that's going to make me feel empowered in this moment? So
Right.
that could be I'm going to slow down. I'm going to practice bringing peace back to myself right now. And, or maybe I'm going to go for a walk. Maybe I'm going to move some of this energy in my body. And that's how I build back to creating peace internally. Because I promise you, peace externally does not happen until all of us individually know how to find some more personal peace in the process.
I like that. I like that. So break it down one more time. Peace.
Peace. Perspective, education, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. And if you can mentally connect with those as actionables, come full circle, usually by the time that you've challenged your brain to think differently, you can hopefully feel a drop in your shoulders. You can come back to the moment. You can literally practice peace because that, especially I work with high performing people and you would be like addictions, they're high perform yes, they are high performing up here with very little action in the moment. That's what coping addiction to a substance, to a vision of their life. They'll hustle before they actually nourish themselves. We
Yep.
have to be able to sustain ourselves if you're going to be a next generation leader is you have to know how to enjoy the moment even when it's uncomfortable.
Right. Right. And you know what? That's a good way to stop. Not to end. Don't say stop. That's a good way to end. That's a good way to end
Let's
this
pause
core
here until next
conversation.
time.
Put a pin in it, right? Um, that was really good. And for those of you guys don't know, Sarah's letting you know about the course that not the course, but the program that she has. Now, Sarah, give us a little background about it as well.
Yeah, so this is going to be the actual self-care model. It's going to be 8 weeks of one week per step of the model. And it's really diving into the practices that align with each part. So, like we went over self last time, self safety is going to be understanding how your information pathway from your brain to your gut work learning breath work to help manage stress and also identify and become more manageable of stress in the moment. So I'm gonna give my little insider information on how do you can you start practicing bringing mental health skills and techniques into your lifestyle.
Awesome, awesome. And stay tuned. The description to that course will be in. I mean, the link to the description will be in the course below. No, link to the course will be in the description below.
I
Forgive me,
think it's
guys.
for like the sign up. Yes.
Yeah,
The
to
sign up
sign
will
up.
be in the description below,
Yeah.
and it will be Thursday nights for 8 weeks, and it will be recorded. So it could be something that if you're not able to attend this time, that hopefully it will be something that you can do on your own and navigate
Yeah.
it.
Awesome. So it's your main man with the game plan, Corey Giovanni, and that is it for some core conversation. Peace.